Let's say we're going to combine two shipping containers to make a bigger house. And in some of those areas, we want an expanded room. We don't want just an 8-foot wide room. We want it to be at least double that. Well, in order to do that, we need to know how to combine the shipping containers. Now, in a previous video, we talked about how you need to be cautious about certain things when you do start removing walls and combining shipping containers. And so be sure to check out that video. Using a design like this one's combining a 40-foot and a 20-foot shipping container, and it would look like this inside. And inside we're showing a beam that is going all the way from one wall to the other. Now, your structural engineer will need to design columns on both sides in order to support this beam. Architecturally, it works really well, in my opinion, because it separates certain spaces visually as well, where it's going, in this case, it's separating the dining area and the kitchen area. So how do we do this? And how do we finish this out? Well, let's look back at the SketchUp drawing that we were using on the previous video. And in that drawing, we have two 40-foot shipping containers combined. Also put a person in there. In architectural terms, we call that a scale figure. And a scale figure is used for architects to kind of get an idea about headroom spaces. These two shipping containers are high cube, and so we have quite a bit of room in order to put a beam inside. And let's open this up a bit and check this out. I'm going to remove the doors, and inside here you can see the little columns we have supporting the roof after the shipping container walls were removed. But maybe we don't want those columns all to be there. Maybe the structural engineer has designed a beam to take its place, something like that. And the beam would have to be supported by columns or walls. In this case, I'm not showing either one of those, just for illustration purposes. Let's flip this around so we can see a little bit a better view of the beam and how it is relative to the head heights and so forth. On the other design that you just saw, had an exposed beam, and it also had exposed underside of the shipping container inside. But you're probably going to want to put some insulation on the inside, probably on the underside of the roof. This is indicating a spray-on type of insulation on the roof. You're probably going to also put some metal studs on the roof in order to support a gypsum board ceiling. And then you're also going to want to put studs on the walls in order to put some insulation in the walls. Now, this is showing a 1.5-inch metal stud. You may want to have a thicker one in order to have a better R value. Having a thicker studs will allow you to have a thicker insulation. This is showing the insulation to be batt insulation. You may want to have spray on the walls as well, which is a great idea. I have covered on other videos about how you can insulate your home with shipping container on the inside and also on the outside. So be sure to check those videos out too. Be sure also to subscribe, because there's a lot I'm going to be covering in this one, and it's going to lead to some other videos as well. Now that we put our insulation and studs in, we're going to want to put our gypsum board on those studs and on the studs on the walls, and also the studs on the ceiling. Those studs on the ceiling are shown to be 6 inches. It'll give you enough room for some recessed hi-hats and things like that. And we'll discuss a little bit more about installing lighting into the ceiling in another video, but I'll give you one little tip, is that when you're putting lights in the ceiling, be sure to not have it come close to the insulation that's around there. But stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to learn more about that. On the top, we still have that metal plate going across on the top. Now, that we talked about in that previous video, and it will require a continuous weld and probably a series of plates, because you're not going to get a plate that's 40 foot long. You're going to have to get in segments. And that will require a lot of welds. And it's also going to require those welds to be continuous without any breaks, because you're relying on these welds not only to connect these plates to the top of the shipping containers, but you're also relying on the plates to help keep the roof watertight. Which, by the way, I'm not a real big fan about, because when you're welding, you're going to be damaging the core tin. The core tin is designed to rust in order to protect, but if you get damage that core tin, then you're going to have to paint over it. Now you're going to rely on the paint. You're also going to be relying on additional beads of sealant along there, and there's going to be a little bit of a maintenance to make sure that there is always a seal around those welded plates. So you may also want to consider putting an additional piece of structure on top of the roof, and that structure can also support things like solar panels, or it can conceal air conditioning units in the attic type of thing. But we'll discuss that in another video.